Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Conversations. Today, I have with me Mr. Andy Brantley. We're going to have a conversation with Andy concerning um, something very interesting that he's been doing for a while. Andy, it's good to have you with us.
Good to be here.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Andy, you have done a lot of research and a lot of I don't know exactly how to say it. I'll let you kind of explain it, but a lot of digging into a healthy lifestyle and some of the issues that we face nutrition wise as a society.
Yeah, sure.
And I've talked to you about it, and it's very interesting. And first, let me just throw this out. What got you motivated to go down this path? What got you paying attention to what you were putting in your body?
Sure. The birth of my daughter Presley, number one, I would say, all of a sudden, I was responsible for another human being's,
Mm-hmm.
growth and well-being, and thinking about, okay, what are we putting into this child's mouth,
Right.
and where does it come from? How did it get here? So those started questions, and then also, friends and family members who are stricken with cardiovascular disease and cancers, and you know, it seems like, or the rhetoric is that food may be the cause of these chronic illnesses that happen to us, and they're actually the number one, number two killers in America,
Right.
and it seems like they could be prevented. So if those can be prevented, and I'm feeding my daughter, what's the best
Right.
nutrition to give her? Where does it come from? Just questions you ask yourself when you're a new dad.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good motivating piece of information. I mean, when you get there, it changes your life. So you
That's right.
obviously shifted in a direction. Tell us a little bit about your research and you doing your homework and what you have found out. Specifically, tell me about what you think that the medical industry or our physicians or our just overall medical community has told us about diets in the past and what we've learned. I guess you look at the food pyramid that was put together back in the 1950s and 60s.
Sure.
Tell me about that versus what you have found out to be the truth.
Wow, that's a big question.
We could be here for a while.
Yeah, that's a rabbit hole that I have definitely delved into,
Right,
and it is a seemingly bottomless pit.
right,
But the maybe a short answer to me is that we are basically governed by corporations, and whatever the corporations are doing is those are the kind of policies that are rendered to us. Um, so, you know, without getting too deep, the way I feel through my research, and there's a couple of things that come to mind. Like there's a documentary called Food Inc. If
mhm,
you've ever seen it, you're taken back like, oh, wow, this is how this food ended up in front of me.
right.
And there's a long process, and it gets pretty scary.
You have the food pyramid up there, and it's set up and it's taught to
Right.
children in school that this is the way you
So
eat.
the food pyramid was developed through a corporate model,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
Like we don't want to corporations. If you produce milk, you don't want milk to be demonized, right? I mean, so there's got to be some give and take,
Yeah.
um, and it's basically in moderation. These are the things you can that provide a healthy lifestyle. But turns out, 30 years later, what we're eating is causing chronic disease.
Right.
So, that pyramid is evolving. It is actually changed. I just looked at it last night. What is the food pyramid? And there's some good, you know, recommendations in there now. Like
Right.
eat more fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Limit your meat consumption, which I'm sure the meat industry is not happy about that. But your doctor will tell you nowadays, hey, cut back on the red meat because of these precursors you have,
Right.
triglycerides and cholesterol or whatever. So, I mean, people are starting to realize those things, eating too much of this is unhealthy. Um, nutrition, 100 years ago, we as the family, our families, we took care of ourselves. We had gardens, we had
Right. Yeah.
livestock. The mothers made the bread, and the dads brought home the pig
Right. Yeah.
that he slaughtered from the backyard or whatever.
They milked the cows. They did whatever.
All of those things happened in the home. Well, with the Industrial Revolution, we pretty much sold the rights to that part of our lives to industry. Industry started making all of our food and preparing all of our food. And now it's gotten to where, the government subsidizes all of these crops that really go into every facet of our lives. At the gas station, you can buy a soft drink with high fructose corn syrup. You can buy some crackers that have all these corn derivatives in it,
Mm-hmm.
and you can put ethanol in your car that's from corn. Corn and soy are just a huge part of our lives, and you see it driving from here to Tullahoma. I mean,
Right.
You see nothing but corn and soybeans. I mean, it's part of the system, and I'm not damning the system, but I do want us as consumers to look and see what's happening, because Tyson and Cargill and Kraft and all the big companies, they will do what we want.
Right.
We are the ones with the dollar that
We're
they're
the
looking
consumer.
for, right? So for me, it's about just education and opening my eyes to what's really going on, and to ask questions like, okay, how can we do better as a family? Where do we get our food? How do we get our food? Those choices that we make every day that, we've pretty much sold that to corporations.
Yeah.
They do it for us.
Right.
We don't have to worry about it. But then when we get older, or maybe not even, I mean, I have a good friends that died of cancer at 34 years old. I mean, not saying that food is the only thing that contributes to that, but it's a contributing factor.
Yeah.
And if we can do something better for ourselves and our society, we're clever enough to figure out a way to do it.
Right.
But it has to be, corporations just aren't going to quit making money.
Yeah.
It's got to be, it's got to be a movement that the corporations can get into. And, they
Right.
already have. I mean, guys like me who would want organic certified food. I'm not saying that that's great, but it's the best we can do right now as far as industrial food. The corporations jumped into that. They're all in.
Define organic. What does that actually mean?
Well, that's a good
It's a
question.
broad
There's
definition,
another
isn't it?
rabbit hole, because the government has actually, they are defining that word
Mhm.
constantly, and
Mhm.
it's changing. It's not, it's just a word, but it's being manipulated in ways that will blow your mind. I'll say one little thing that would be interesting. I just read this, that this will blow your mind if you don't know this already.
All right.
So, like, let's say, for instance, organic certified chicken. Now, to be organic, you have to meet certain requirements. You cannot use antibiotics or hormones.
Right.
The feed
Okay.
that you give the animal has to be organic certified. It
Right.
can't be GMO or chemical laden.
Right. Can't be pumped with steroids or whatever.
You got to keep the chemicals to a minimum. The chemicals that you can use have to be approved. It's not what usually goes on. What 90%
Not
of
quite as bad, huh?
it's
Okay.
what 90% of our food is produced unorganically, right?
All right.
So this is a little niche that guys like me, and it's a movement across the country. People that want better quality food because that's what we
Yeah,
want. That's
I
what we
know.
want.
I know. I've heard the term "from the farm to the table." There is a movement there, and I hear people talking about it all the time. They're looking for local sources for meats in their fruits and vegetables. Have you dug into that and found good sources in this area for locally grown and locally raised
Um,
product?
there, if you if you look hard enough and you have the relationships, you can find really good stuff.
Yeah,
There's some smart people out there that grow way better than I do, that know all kinds of things about seeds and soil and you know history
yeah,
of plants and how animals incorporate. And there's people that know, you know,
right.
um, they're just more obscure. You know, those the best people I found are, you know, they really don't like people. You
Yeah,
know, they're more obscure,
right.
but they're amazing. I mean, they
Yeah.
have talent that you wouldn't believe. But back to my story about organic chickens. So you can't have antibiotics, right? That's a
Okay.
rule. So they're developing these MNRA or whatever the vaccine is.
Right.
They're
Okay.
vaccinating the chickens now because that's not part of the organic
Oh wow.
letter of the law. So maybe you won't be getting a chicken with antibiotics, but you'll be getting a chicken that's been vaccinated.
Wow.
So, but you asked what is the meaning of organic? Who knows? I mean, it's changing every day. Corporations want it to say this, you know. Consumers want it to say this. It's organic. You know, the best farmer I've run into, which I hope that you and I can go visit his farm. And I found him on the internet, but he's amazing. I love hearing him speak. His Joel Salatin. He has a farm in Virginia,
Right.
but he's not organic. He's not certified organic. He looks at that like a corporate word that doesn't really
A
fit.
marketing tool.
It's a marketing
Yeah.
tool. You know, it's kind of thrown into the consumer's face like, hey, this is what you want. You want the organic. And we can go down that rabbit hole of all the things. But anyway, he just kind of uses nature's pattern, nature's way, his own instincts, the knowledge that was passed down through his families, um, to raise food. And he does it in such a really neat way. And we've got to get up there
Yeah,
and
I'd
see
love
his
to go. I
place.
know we've talked about that in the past. Let me ask you this, Andy. Do you have your own garden? Do you raise your
Sure,
own?
I do.
What vegetables
Yeah,
do
I do
you?
all the normal things. I do, cucumbers and tomatoes and peppers, squash, and, what okra.
Gone
And
into the beans and corn yet, or you?
I've done some corn. The
Yeah.
raccoons ate every bit of that. Um, if you live next to some woods, which I do, uh, it's hard to keep what
They
you
can be
got.
pesky critters.
Yeah,
There's no
squirrels
doubt.
will eat all your
Yeah.
tomatoes. So, but if you plant enough, some stuff gets through and
Right.
gets
Yeah.
to your plate.
So,
You know,
have you been able to supply your family with a good ration of these and able to give it away too, or how does that
Yeah,
work?
sometimes. I mean, you know, farming, as any farmer will tell you. I mean, some years are great,
Yeah.
and some years you couldn't get anything to grow. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm delving now into soil science, and I've got a microscope now where I can
Oh
actually,
wow.
yeah, I can
Oh,
look at.
you're taking this serious.
Well, I'm just, I have my own job and I do my work, but I enjoy working on other things
Yeah, I
other
get
than
it.
work.
Yeah.
And these are good ways to get away and learn some things, and, you know, I try to apply them.
Right. If somebody were sitting out there today thinking, well, you know what, this coming spring, I'm going to put a garden in, where would you send them to learn? What kind of sources are there out there for these folks to dive into if they don't have a history in their family of raising food? How would they get started?
Yeah. Well, the path I'm on now, I mean, certainly you would need to first test your soil.
Okay.
Because some soils are way better than others. And the reason why some soils are better than others is the microbiology. So we have to realize that, just like in our bodies, there are, let's say, 10 trillion organisms,
Mm-hmm.
microbes that are not human, that we need for survival. Without them, we would die. The soil and the plants need that microbiology as well to produce fruit. If they don't have it, it's going to be, hard.
Yeah.
And that's why people add the chemical fertilizers and, the limes or whatever is on the market to
Right.
help their, co-op. Nothing against co-op, but they've got all kinds of products to help your garden. But I would say that you don't need necessarily anything from them. Everyone has access to, number one, they can get their soil tested. Number two, they can add necessary things depending on what the test shows.
Right.
And that would be in the form of carbon. That would be some sort of compost or something to get that soil invigorated.
Right.
Because the plants and the microbes have a symbiotic relationship. I mean, they're one's given and the other one's taken and given back, and that's how we get the food we get.
Okay.
Unfortunately, just like us as humans, plants can survive and can be tricked almost to produce using synthetic methods. You can live off synthetic food. You probably do. You don't even know it, but
That's not good.
maybe.
But let's just think for a second. If you were going to plant three vegetables to grow, would it be the normal that what everybody goes around here: squash, peppers, and cucumbers, and maybe then have tomatoes with it? That's a starting point. That's a starter garden, would you say?
Yeah.
Or somebody to just play around.
Yeah, that's
and see
easy.
How it goes.
I mean, cucumbers usually do really well in all sorts of soil, and they produce like crazy. I mean, you'll have if your cucumbers are doing well, you'll have enough for the whole neighborhood.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they just keep going.
Yeah.
Tomatoes are more fickle, but tomatoes are my favorite.
Yeah.
I can eat a tomato with anything. It's my favorite fruit.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that the tomatoes that I can grow in my garden, I haven't tasted tomatoes like it anywhere.
Right. It's
like
unique to that soil.
But you won't find it at the grocery store.
No.
I mean, have you ever had a grocery store tomato?
There's no comparison.
It's like cardboard.
I know.
I mean, this is like a fruit. I mean, this is juice that runs down your arm, and it's like sugar.
All right, most of the tomatoes that we get at the grocery store, if not all of them, tell us how they're grown.
So most
for
of
the
them,
industry,
the industry. So most of them are grown in hothouses.
Right.
So these are buildings. They're grown in California and Florida, mostly. They're like hydroponically grown. They're not natural. They're grown in an unnatural state, and they're modified genetically. I wouldn't say GMO, but that is kind of what I'm saying. They're modified so that they're shippable, so that they can travel for 1,000 miles without getting bumped or bruised.
Right.
So they do all these hybrid tomatoes where they get to one that is going to stay red the longest.
Right.
And they use like vegetable oil sprays to kind of keep them looking that way and protect them. But then when you buy one, it looks beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's perft.
But
I can't grow anything like that. Yeah,
it's dingy water inside.
Yeah.
It's not. Our instincts know that there's no nutrition there. There's no health there.
Yeah.
It's probably unhealthy.
Yeah. I think everybody that's gone to the grocery store and bought this type of product and then have had the homegrown in the backyard or in the local garden, there's no comparison.
Right. Yeah. And why and so why has corporations, why do they do that? It's because we keep buying those
Exactly.
crappy
And it's
tomatoes.
convenient. We talked about this the other
And if we'd
day.
stop buying them,
Yeah.
then they'd figure out a way to grow a good tomato.
Yeah. When we go out to eat at a restaurant, Andy, it's because it's convenient. When we go to the grocery store and walk in and pick up a basket, it's convenient because we haven't planted a garden.
Yeah,
So,
they say that in America, convenience is the most addictive drug that
yeah.
we offer.
Oh, there's no doubt. When you can pick up the phone or send a text and have groceries delivered to your porch within an hour,
Yeah.
it's definitely an addiction that everybody has bought into.
Right.
So
Well, we're trying to create the Garden of Eden, but when Adam and Eve sinned, God said there is no more Garden
yeah,
of Eden. Now you have to work.
yeah,
So we've missed the work ethic and the connection we have with the earth. We just forgot about it, and we outsourced it to
yeah,
corporations. We're
right,
glad to do it because we pay them, and the government happens to subsidize most of what they use.
yeah,
So it works out. It just takes a toll on our connection to the earth, our connection to each other, our connection spiritually to God, and you know we've lost a valuable part of life
yeah,
in exchange for convenience.
yeah,
But when that convenience shatters and you're hit with a health problem, then you start looking like, what have we been doing?
yeah. Well, let's talk about the health problems. I know people that could be on 5, 6, 7, 8 different medications that drug companies have produced for a specific ailment or disease or chronic problem, whatever it could be. And then this person goes to another doctor and they get prescribed another medication for another situation. You have
Sure.
maybe a combination of 5 to 10 drugs that have never been tested together. And you have this going on in a person's body. What have you found out through your research and your studies and digging into some of this stuff? How many actually you hear about natural remedies? How many natural remedies have you actually run across that actually work for specific conditions? I mean, everybody says, "Hey, you take this for that." There's references. Honey is an antibiotic, or that type of stuff. How
So,
many have you found to be true?
well, several, but the way I look at our bodies is that we are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Mm-hmm.
Our bodies are way more sophisticated than any doctor's studies or rationale, or not
Right,
taken away from doctors. Hey, if your appendix are about to rupture, you need a doctor.
right,
That's just how it is. Now, why our appendix rupture? Now, that's a different question. I mean, what happens is the medical communities are really only worried about symptoms.
right,
You know, you come in with a problem, they're going to give you something to fix it. And a lot of what they give you is medicine from a plant.
yeah,
Plants, medicines are derived from plants.
right,
But we often don't talk about, well, why did you have that problem to begin with, and what are some things you can look at in your life that may have caused it.
right.
We don't get that connected with our doctor. It's more of, hey, I got this problem. What can you do?
Yeah,
And it
here's
prescribes
here's
you.
a script. Go get it filled.
Most gentlemen over 50 are going to be taking some sort of blood thinner.
Right.
And why do we need that? Well, because of what we eat. We need something to thin our blood so we don't have a stroke or a heart attack.
Right.
Because what we're putting inside, and our lack of exercise and our stress levels and all kinds of other factors. We need something to keep our blood moving. So there's a pill that doctor can prescribe you that you will take for the rest of your life. Now, it may be saving you,
Right.
but guess who's going to make a lot of money? Your doctor and the pharmaceutical company.
Right.
They're okay with you taking that.
Oh, absolutely.
But all you would have to do really is diagnose your life and say, okay, what am I eating? How am I sleeping? What kind of exercise am I getting? Am I happy? Am I living towards my dream or my goal? And
Right.
spiritually, where am I at? Those are the questions we need to ask, and those are the questions I ask
Right.
myself and whoever I may come into contact with.
Sure.
Um, there's a lot of learning and growth that I have to go through, and I eat junk
Sure.
every now and then myself.
Right.
With two daughters now, it's tough.
Right.
They're not exposed to healthy food, and they don't really care about healthy food, and their bodies are metabolizing everything so quickly it's not even affecting them right now.
Right.
But it can later.
Sure.
So that's what we're trying to
Right. Well,
preach.
Building that foundation, it's always going to be there. So later on, they'll pick up and go.
Yeah, sure.
Well, Andy, we could talk all day about this stuff.
I love it.
And it's very interesting, and we want to have you back on here to talk some more on a regular basis. As you learn things, we appreciate it if you can share it.
Sure.
And
love to. I mean, like I said, I don't know everything, and I'm constantly learning. But there's just some key principles that are out there that we're missing as a society and as people, consumers that we are. We're just we get too busy and we miss some key issues
right.
that need to be addressed, need to be talked about. And like I said, we grow our own food.
Right.
Not that it is enough to feed us all the time, but I'm always picking out of the garden and putting it on my plate.
Sure.
Trying to give it to the girls as well.
Right.
They don't like it, but
as a parting gift to everybody that's listening, what's one practical thing that somebody could make a change in their life right now that would take them one step toward a healthy life? What would it be? If you had to start today with one step, what would it be? That's not a question I have proposed before, but what would it be?
Sure. I can just think about myself right now. Like what I'm trying to do now is this may be funny, but I'm learning how to breathe.
Okay.
There is a correct way to breathe, and it's very hard for me. I'm a mouth breather. I'm a chest breather, and that is detrimental to your health.
Okay.
I'm trying to learn to relax and breathe through my nose, which is the way you should breathe, and feel your diaphragm, because we are a big pump. Our heart is a pump, our organs pump.
Right.
And if we breathe through our nose and expand our guts, we actually put pressure on our systems so that they can move. Now, if we breathe through our mouth and our chest, we're not pumping the way we should.
Right. So your oxygen levels are not what they should be throughout the body, I assume.
Your body is designed to work a certain way. And because I've breathed with my mouth, it could be detrimental to my health.
Okay. So there's a practical
that's just
thing.
One little
learn
thing.
How to breathe. That's a good start.
That's a good start.
And then if we learn how to eat, after we learn how to breathe, that's going to be the journey.
Well, see, I look at it like this. So there's some important things that we can't live without. One is oxygen. That's probably the most important.
Oh, I would say.
If you hold your breath for 2 minutes, you may die.
Yeah.
So oxygen. Then water. You have to have water. You can probably go a week without water. So how can we, drink the best water? Well, that's a pretty loaded question.
Yeah.
And when you look into water, wow, you get blown away by like what's out there, where did it come from?
Yeah.
What's been done to it? Water's amazing. I mean, it's, the earth is 70% water. We're 70% water. Water is everything. There's only 2% of the earth's water that is actually sweet water, that is actually available to us for life.
Wow.
So 2% of that water, we better be taking care of that water.
Yeah.
And then and I could delve into an hour-long discussion about how to find water. But and then the third is food. You can't survive too long without food. Maybe 40 days or so.
Yeah,
Jesus
we know
fasted for
that.
40
Yeah.
days, right? But so where do I find good food? Um, and I try not to worry too much about it. I try to just, you know, let God or my instincts lead me in the directions I need to go. But if you ask questions, you'll figure it out. I mean, you'll learn what's going on and learn where other options are and what you could do to help your situation with all of those things.
Right. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean
No, that's good.
that.
But the water, pay attention to the water. That would be some sound advice. Where's it coming from? Is it
Sure.
healthy?
I mean,
Well, let's just talk about water for a second. What about the spring water that you can purchase in the grocery stores? I know there's artesian wells. And I know it depends on where it's located and where it comes from. What's a healthy water we could drink that you know of?
so this is a very deep question, and I could talk for an hour about it. But you know, water is a living organism. It moves. Water is constantly on the move. If water is ever stagnant, it's detrimental to the water's health. Water needs to be moving constantly. Um, water is mostly underneath us.
Right.
It's filtering through the earth, and then the earth has a way of springing that water up at various points and various times, and that's the water that is the sweetest water for us to partake in.
Yeah.
Now, you know, we talk about all the things that happen environmentally, and a big discussion is all the runoff that ends up in our groundwater, right? All the chemicals, all the whatever, poisons, whatever that may be. That's important to know.
Okay. Bottom line, do you drink tap water?
No, I do not drink tap water.
All right. That that speaks to our local source here and the treatment that it goes through. And I think if you just tasted it, it's automatically a screen that says no, that's not good.
Now, I say I don't drink tap water. Now, I do have filtration systems
Right.
for my tap water
Right.
that I will occasionally get water from,
Right.
cooking or whatever. But
what's your favorite brand of water to buy, purchase at a store, and drink
I'm
on
learning,
a regular basis?
I've actually delved into this, listening to speakers, and Fiji has always been my
Right.
favorite, just because it tastes the best.
Right.
And I also like the carbonated mineral waters, like the Pellegrinos or whatnot. It just because it tastes good to me.
Right.
I don't necessarily know or think that it's the most healthy. Um, Water really doesn't ever need to be in anything plastic. If you're drinking out of plastic, it's probably not the best idea.
Yeah.
It needs to be in glass. Worst case, I mean, it really just needs to be from a bubbling brook.
Yeah.
That's the way we've drank water for tens of thousands of years.
Right.
But we can't do that now because there's a corn crop nearby
Right.
that all the pesticides
Yeah.
run into. So Fiji's my favorite, but
Right.
just because I like the taste.
All right.
I don't think it's necessarily healthy. Maybe it's a healthier option, but it's corporate. How can they make that many bottles of that water?
Yeah, really.
And I know I've actually gone to their website and checked them out, and they look pretty cool, but I don't know. It's not a limitless supply.
Yeah.
Um,
All right, Andy.
yeah.
Thanks for all of this. And it's a lot to think about, and it's a lot to digest. And as people start to, I guess, dig in for themselves and study for themselves and research for themselves, they're going to have a lot of questions come to their mind. And I hope we can sit down
Sure.
again and talk about some things maybe that people want to ask. And in your experience, you can maybe give us an answer that can help out somebody down the road.
Yeah, and I'm constantly learning and evolving, and my ideas may change, but most people that I talk to have no clue about the things that I could relay to them,
Right.
which would be shocking. And I don't want to. I'm not trying to cause a scare. I'm just trying to know the facts.
Right.
You know, I'd like to know what's up.
Right. Well, Andy, we're going to have you back real soon to find out what's up.
Good.
Thanks for sitting down.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll be back again real soon with Mr. Andy Brantley and spread some more knowledge and some more wisdom about our health.